You don't have that authority. When there's a motion on the floor, because there was a motion on the floor, it's been first and seconded, you have to go to find where it says to me, where you're saying to me that I'm out of order. You accepted my motion, you gave me the floor. Second, you had a second by, sorry, Tony, by Tony. Thank you. Second, Madam Chair, would you please be kind? It was second, it was seconded.
You can't just
Then,
do it.
yes, we can, and we have done it before. We have motion first and seconded, all recognized by you, and was put on the floor to vote on. You cannot unilaterally vote against the majority of this. That means you're keeping us hostage, Madam Chair. That's what it sounds like. So be it. That's what the problem is, because you're acting like a dictatorship. You're not acting as a fair chair. Look at the role of the chair in that book. Please find the role of the chair on that book. And please tell me if I'm wrong.
There has to be an investigation. There have to be charges. You have to go through a process. You can't just dump. I can't just dump you on it. I really regret it, but I've never been able to do it. Same way, because you never know. Same way.
That's right. We're taking a vote, Madam Chair, as your own words.
Tom, you can't do it. You have to bring charges.
Call the PBA.
Madam Chair, I did. I brought it up. I put the motion on. You accepted it, and we seconded it. And the thing is, you told us we were out of order.
No, you can't do that. You gotta.
We did it, madam. We did it. Together we did.
Stupid book, and do what you have, do it the way you have to do it. Although, hey, at this point, baby, I'll go.
Good, why don't you just step
Madam, it's the second time you're telling this body that you want to resign.
I didn't say that.
Well, you said you wanted to go.
You've got to, Tom, that I am a stickler for the letter of the law. People who like me and support generally what I support tell me I'm too much of a stickler for the letter of the law. I am telling you that there is a process that you have to go through. You can't just get up one day and say, you're gone. And you've got to go through a process. I am adjourning the meeting. I suggest that you go home and read, figure out what the process is, and do it.
Madam Chair, with all due respect,
you can't do it that way.
With all due respect, we have researched it. Our bylaws state what it states. I have invoked it. I have presented to you. It was seconded, and it is now, in your opinion, that you're telling me I'm out of order after the second motion was accepted on the floor, and you did not let it go through its full course. That is, I beg the difference with you, Madam Chair.
She's trying to explain to you that under Robert's Rules of Order, it's not simply as simple, assuming it isn't a proper motion, that you make a motion, you say what you want to say, and your supporters vote in favor of it, and vote it's over. There's a process, there's a different process. Read Robert's Rules of Order and follow it.
Our bylaws say that we live by Robert's Rules of Order. I think it's sometimes a pain in the neck. So you wrote me a note saying I'm too picky about the little things. I am. Other people have said the same thing. However, read the book.
Can I clarify something? What are we doing with this motion? Are we tabling this motion, or are we deciding?
It wasn't accepted.
There is no motion. It's not a real motion because you can't.
Joe, just because someone in the...
Do it. We adjourn the meeting, you go through the process.
That doesn't make it a motion.
Just such a treat to work with.
Really?
You go through the process, you read it, you figure out what it says, and then you go ahead and do what it says.
Against anything I ever learned.
Madam Chair, for your enlightenment, on page 6 of what you did, from what I understand, you told me you created this piece of document and you submitted it. It was approved by this board in that year, and it was approved with full authority of this board. And this document that you crafted well enough states, Section 4 of page 6 of October 7, 2008, any officer may be removed or suspended by the board for the same causes that govern the removal or suspension of trustees. Removal or suspension shall be a vote of 2/3 of the full board.
But first you have to honor
If you notice, Madam Chair,
procedure in here, because it also says in those bylaws that we live by right. I mean, I could go look it up on the pages that we live by right, where we live.
Madam Chair, can you find me that description in our bylaws?
She wrote it, she should have bought it.
Tom, the bylaws say they're subject to two things, Robert's Rules of Order and the open meeting law.
Okay, I will let you know
The
what
open
it
meetings
is.
law
In page 5,
pretty much
under
checks
Section 8
Robert's
meetings,
rules.
subtitle E, unless otherwise provided by in these bylaws, conduct of all meetings of the board shall be governed by the current edition of Robert's Rules of Order. That is all.
And the
Motions
opinion of Robert's
are given to you.
director of voting.
You accepted it, seconded it.
Government opens committee.
It was not thrown at you.
Robert's rules.
It was given to you.
Likewise.
Presented to you. You have the right to follow Robert's Rules of Order, which you're not doing. You just proclaim to yourself and to this board that it is out of order.
Actually, Tom, I am.
May I-
And I got a couple of words.
Tom,
here.
So you are, Madam Chair. In your own words, you're stating to us, you are throwing out there.
What?
Tom,
Huh? I'm sorry?
Tom, do you believe in due process?
That's what I thought I was doing.
Well, due process, when you're getting into a serious charge like this, the removal of an elected official requires that there be specific charges. Otherwise, you can imagine what would happen if someone came in and inflamed the legislative body and said, so-and-so is a notorious child molester, and everybody gets all worked up about it, and they take a vote. That would be improper. You can agree with that, right? So if you're saying that there has been some neglect of duty, some malfeasance here, there have to be specific charges. And that hasn't been done yet. And she's entitled, if you think she's not been competent in dealing with this board, duties of this board, then there have to be specific charges, not just, you're doing a bad job and we don't like you.
Ed?
That's due process. That's the American way, Tom.
Due process has occurred. We stated to you and what the subject matter was. We told you which
No, that's not due
subsection was.
process.
It is due process,
That's not
sir.
due process.
That's not due process.
That's
This is not a star change.
Trial. It is
Tom.
not for
This
trial.
country, Tom, is based upon due process of law. And you
We're
can't
talking about
just
the
raise an issue like that and
legislative
expect
process.
inflamed people to vote. There's a reason.
Or elected
If I may suggest,
legislature.
can you allow me the time to research this a little, and that you and I set up the time to meet and talk about it one-on-one?
No, sir, I would not. I believe we need to hire an attorney for the library pronto, because it seems that there are too much venue of,
Well, it's not really.
how would I put it, sir, in a mild way?
May I? I don't think it's an attorney issue as much as it's a parliamentary procedure question. And I would be very happy to have a parliamentarian who are hired to come to meetings and direct. If I have your blessing to do that, I will be glad to have a parliamentarian here when we next meet. And they have to go through a test and qualify.
I believe that will be, in many ways, a waste of money and time. Okay? Because we've got to hire somebody to know the following procedures here. We have a book that everybody seems to have read it. And I believe you have read it several times. And I believe you know the answer.
That there's a process, pretty much.
I believe I went through the process, it was motion and second.
No, that's not, there's a whole chapter in Robert's Rules of Order, just about procedures. It is not as simple as you would like it to be. And I suggest that you read Robert's Rules of Order. I'll even tell you it's chapter 20. And if you believe that Terry should be removed as either as president or as a member of the board, that you follow the procedures.
You read our bylaws very carefully. our bylaws supersede any Robert's Rules of Order.
No, the other way around.
No, it's not the other way around. I don't know what law school you have gone to. And
I'm telling you, Tom, we are governed by this, and this is more to the procedures.
I don't want to go there, Ryan. I'm trying to tell you, sir, if you look at our bylaws, there's section 8 about meetings, only where it says, look to Robert's Rules of Order. That is the only section, only subsection that says, please look at, if you have any doubts, go to Robert's Rules of Order. That's it. About conducting meetings, not accepting motions, not being
Your
a
reading
chair.
is too narrow, it's incorrect.
Well, that's our bylaws, sir.
No, that's not what our bylaws say. You're reading our
Will you be kind
bylaws.
enough to read it?
You've read it out loud 2 or 3 times.
That's right.
We are governed by Robert's Rules of Order, which is a whole chapter in disciplinary procedures. I suggest you follow them.
Sir, I'm following our bylaws first.
No.
It is my understanding that when we took charge of this office, we were given one of these to follow, not Robert's
To
Rules
be
of
read in
Order.
conjunction with Robert's Rules of Order and the Open Meetings Law.
Sir, again.
My name is Jeff, not sir.
Jeff, would you be kind enough, if you look at what you were presented when you came on board? You were presented with the bylaws.
Those bylaws no longer govern, those have been revised.
That's right. I am talking about the revised one that I asked our director. Those are the ones that govern us.
And since you haven't heard it before, I'll say it again, those bylaws are read in conjunction with Robert's Rules of Order.
No, sir. Again,
Should we do
I believe
paper,
in
rock,
law.
scissors, Tom?
Say it, please.
Should we do paper, rock, scissors? I'm telling you that our bylaws say they're governed by Robert's Rules of Order.
Which trumps the bylaws? Sure, I've read that.
I know I'm out of order, but I cannot understand why the same people want to get rid of Terry that want to get rid of Chuck. Somehow, to me, that seems very suspicious. What's the agenda? Why do you want to get rid of Terry and why do you want to get rid of Chuck? Why go to the expense of searching for a new director when we have a very capable and good director right here? You know, Tom, I've known you a while, I like you, but I don't agree with what you're doing.
Nancy, you're very right, since the chair has allowed me to speak to you. You're very right. But I told you once and twice, I will speak to you on a personal level when I get the opportunity. I cannot talk about personnel to degrade myself, to let you know.
When it's convenient.
But when I
like
asked
that.
you one
Very
direct
nice.
question, you didn't answer it. Why you didn't follow the Constitution and bylaws for the December meeting? And you didn't answer
I
that.
did tell you I'll speak to you later, right?
That's not between you and me, it's between the
No, that's
library.
questions between you and I.
The
And this is
Constitution and bylaws was
Our
not
president,
followed.
Nancy, our president answered that.
Are we all allowed to speak? Can we all speak now? I'd like to say something.
Yeah, please.
As long as everybody wants to listen.
Get up and speak.
Okay. I just want to say to you, you make laws, all right? But you can change laws. Okay, you can go in and change them just as well as you can make them. All right, and if you think about that once in a while, this country has too many laws. All right, and you really, these guys that fight, they come back, they can't even find a job up here. You guys are lucky to have a job. Okay, that's all I can say to you. Change some of the laws.
Chuck,
Yes, sir.
you get a copy of your bylaws, or at least our bylaws?
Not- And I may have given my copies back to Barbara, the secretary.
What is your opinion to suspend the bylaws?
It entertains you to...
Please do indulge.
All right. My only point of information, I'd like to research this, but I'm pretty sure that I've read that Robert's Rules of Order, as long as your bylaws say that the operation of the committee, of the board, is done, is by Robert's Rules of Order, Robert's Rules of Order trumps the bylaws.
So, it cannot be.
Unless otherwise provided for in the bylaws, unless otherwise provided for. And bylaws first.
Bylaws trump all.
Unless otherwise provided.
May I read
for.
something?
You read from which book?
Can I finish? I don't talk about it. Unless provided according to bylaws, conduct of all meetings of the board shall be governed by the terms. So the bylaws come first, then Robert's rules of order. I don't know what the right answer is to this, and I don't think we're going to get one tonight. I think we have to figure that out, but to say that Robert's rules of order come from bylaws, that's not.
All right, like I said, I never claimed to be an expert.
Well,
I
you know-
do research it occasionally, and I would suggest again,
Well,
perhaps have a parliamentarian at our next meeting.
But most bodies conduct themselves according to some rules. There has to be, otherwise it would not be a functioning body. From the Congress on down, although we could of course dispute that, all of us, regardless of our politics, that the Congress is dysfunctional also, but they get the work done. Every legislative body has some set of rules they follow. Bylaws are general controls, but the nitty-gritty, the details are out of the Roberts, Sturgis Rules of Order. There are several others. But let me just read something, if I may, which should put this whole issue to rest, this ridiculous issue. A member has the right that allegations against his good name shall not be made except by charges brought on reasonable ground. If a member is thus accused, he has the right to due process, that is, to be informed of the charge and given time to prepare his defense, to appear and defend himself, and to be fairly treated. I mean, that is what we've been saying. That if you have a beef, do like every other body does, or what we do in the grand jury, you present a case and you let someone vote on it. In this instance, if you have a beef against Terry or anyone else on this board, they have to prepare a list of accusations and then give it to her so she has the right to prepare a defense. That's the American way. We don't hang people because people get emotionally stirred up. And we're talking about saluting the flag and being patriotic, but how can we on one hand say we all must salute the flag, on the other hand, the Constitution and our rules be damned? Isn't that inconsistent? So if you have a beef against Terry or anybody else on this board, or even Chuck, create a list of what it is that's bothering you, give it to Terry, let her defend herself, and then we'll vote on it after we see what the facts are, not what the allegations are. Anybody can allege anything they want in this country. And that's the good thing about this country. Everyone has that freedom. The reality is, though, there has to be a balance. And the balance is her right to defend herself.
Liz, we do that in a public meeting?
The charges can, yes. The answer is absolutely yes, and it should be a public meeting.
All right, because...
But they must be sufficiently detailed with facts, not conclusions. For example, a conclusion is the meetings are a mess.
And it's a lynch
Well, let me
mob
finish. Let me finish. Matt,
you know?
let me finish and I'll let you
You know what I'm saying?
Let me finish and I'll let you speak. It can't be conclusions. It can't be the meetings are a mess. It has to be, for example, on March 15th, 2012, at the regularly scheduled board meeting at about 9 o'clock, or whatever the time was, there was a question from the audience that should not have been received. And make a list of those. We all make mistakes. So one minor issue would be a misdemeanor, so to speak. But if you get more of them, and it shows that the meetings are totally out of hand, well, then maybe she should be removed as president. But she's entitled to due process, and that's the American way. You may not like it. You might like to wave the flag, but part of that flag says, this is America, and no matter who it is, you're entitled to due process. Whether you're the lowest person in this country or the President of the United States, and everybody in between. You may not like it, but that's the way it is, and if you don't like it, that's too bad. But that's America. We all have the right to receive these charges against us, to have an opportunity, a fair opportunity, to defend ourselves. That's why these criminal charges against people you read about in the paper, 2 or 3 years later there's a trial. Why? Because the defense needs time to prepare an answer to all of the charges. That's it. That's the bottom line. So we can sit here all night and we can waste each other's time, but the bottom line is if you want to remove her from her office or as a trustee, which we are entitled to do, we can remove each other for violations of our rules. If you want to do that, though, she has to have a fair opportunity to defend herself. Does that make sense to you?
It makes perfect sense. But the only thing I want you to understand, as Joe read our bylaws. You're reading a book that basically is universal to all of America and all of other parts of the country.
Absolutely.
But our bylaws, in this
Show me where the
language-
bylaws say due process is checked at the door.
I never said that.
Well,
I never said that.
So then why should
That's why I gave the opportunity to discuss. You put the motion on the floor.
No,
you
that's
second
not a
it,
matter of
you have
discussion.
debate.
You missed what I read.
No.
You totally missed what I read.
I did
It's not a
miss.
matter of
I
discussion.
did not miss. I did not miss.
What are the itemized charges? Does she
If you
have,
would've gave me the
does she
time-
have an opportunity to reflect upon them and defend herself? No, it's not being done tonight. Face it.
No. I am facing it. That's why I'm so vigorous in letting you
You're
know
quick
our
to
by-
hang.
our
You are too
bylaws.
quick to hang. That is un-American, Tom.
Sir, please don't go that route. Please.
We're kind of outlawed lynchings, haven't we?
Listen,
This
sir.
is what it is.
Ed,
That's thank
with
you.
all respect, to all the years that you've served this country with loyalty as an attorney on this case, please don't ever tell me that I'm un-American.
Then act American, Tom.
I am, sir.
No, when you want to hang someone like that, that's how it works.
She didn't do it.
If you let me answer the question. You are looking at the book. I do not see
thought
the
so.
bylaws.
Usually can-
You do not look at bylaws.
Show me a bylaw that contradicts the due process requirement.
I did not say my book, sir. I didn't talk about our
What's
bylaws.
the bylaws have to do with that?
Because
All those years of law school to get you trained.
Oh, really, how and why, and show me the authority for that statement.
Because it's our bylaws.
Where does it say the bylaws that you check due process at the door because our bylaws? If our bylaws said it's like
It's not a court of law.
it is. It is. It's a different type of court.
It's not, sir.
Well, Tom, you know what? I can't say anymore. I can't say anymore. If you don't agree with the due process, what can I say?
We gave you the due process.
You agree with that?
Well, I do. I think, I've only.
I can't think of this guy's name from Patch, but he's
They said, I don't remember it though.
I've never seen anybody so in.
Bill? Was it Bill? I thought it was Bill.
I have attended no board meetings.
He's got a strong constitution. So this one out. He's probably got a bunch of questions that ask for followers.
No, it's not.
If it ever
Yeah, I'm gonna let it go until I can do in 30-minute increments. I got 8 more minutes, and then I gotta get out of here.
wow, you want to go to Sam?
Oh, I may as well let it go.
And when they start to speak, she says, I don't want to hear that. That's not her position. She's not God. She's pregnant thunder.
May I make an example?
Yes, she's pregnant. And when I was second, and when I was
Congress decided that Bill Clinton was no longer a good president, and they took it
I know that you called the
One day.
station after the situation.
Absolutely.
I had people calling me.
How would our federal government
I don't mind
be able to
anything.
operate? We have a
I really do.
But why did they no
changing
longer?
door of residency. So there is a specified process.
That's the whole issue. The government is not operating.
Charges have the time to build it.
It's operating, but it's operating.
But don't tell anybody that they don't have the right to say
But
it.
it's been compromised from years of so many people abusing.
Oh, absolutely. This is just the end game.
Yeah.
Both
Somebody
sides
should
of the
say that
aisle.
this year.
Yeah, yeah. Both sides of the aisle.
And stop the animosity and all the BS that's going on.
We have to present.
Mr. Greenberg back here. Mr. Greenberg is on. Yeah, I'm sure he'd be a very good president. No, absolutely not. But Mr. Greenberg is a good president.
It could be a committee of one, but the
I personally believe that. That's my opinion.
is that
We are all entitled to our own opinion.
and not illusory, and that's a big difference.
But what she did in the Pledge of Allegiance deserves her to get in trouble.
And you're not. It's not, we're in the hallways and usually every meeting,
My
this occurs.
fault, that's usual. My whole family. I lived through the war, so, yeah.
They should be clear. clear from themselves if it's a fact or a conclusion.
Is she so
A fact? Well, give me an example.
To this? When she has the nerve
If I
to
said,
say,
I'm going to
step
32
down
lights
anyway,
in
just step down.
that might be a fact. But if I say, his light is
She's gonna step down.
maybe there is, maybe there isn't.
I mean, we all
Out of frustration?
You see the attitude towards her. Move out of the way. People don't want you there. It's never gonna be a public school while she's there. But
It
what's
wasn't.
the bottom line? I mean, what is it?
Well, this is specific to you.
Oh, really?
And it never will be as long as she's there.
She's not the problem.
There's several problems.
Just like with the impeachment.
Let
It
me
was,
tell
it
you,
was a vote
when I
where
go to a
Nixon.
lot of meetings,
Well, Clinton too, he was we sit as a jury, the committee of the whole.
and bylaws, I worked for big corporations, and I took minutes
Certainly
for
not
many years,
president.
and bylaws.
It would be a vice president, but we don't have a vice
Never
president.
seen Robert's rules.
I guess one of the next officer, I guess treasurer.
Same four men.
But that's the key. It's gotta-
I can have 15 years.
No, it comes from anywhere. It could be facts that
Do you think there's any diagnosis in that regard?
then you would be, because you and I could look at this wall, describe what we saw. We wouldn't describe it the same way. You have your sense of what the facts are, and I have my sense of what the facts are.
That they did not accept the December minutes. The last meeting was
Then you'll have to establish somehow what is omitted, and maybe that's done by affidavits from your same group. Maybe that's the way that's one statement. But it has to be fact.
They start making you write out.
Robert's Rules of Order has a whole chapter.
There is a procedure.